And listening to Bernie tell the time that I am absolutely devoted to spending with my children, I realize that part of it is because, number one, my mother worked so hard, and she did spend a lot of time with us, but I never had a father with her. And so simple things like birthday parties. I remember going to birthday parties growing up here, one in particular. And I was at a birthday party and playing with my friends, and it came about the time that my mother had to go to work on a Saturday, probably cleaning somebody's house or something like that. And she said to the kids, me and my brother and my sister, okay, y'all get your stuff together, we've got to go now. And I'm like, well, the fun is just starting. I mean, they haven't even cut the cake yet. And she said, no, I've got a job to go to, so get your stuff together, we've got to go. And I remember gathering my stuff and leaving, just sort of walking out as, kids do, getting upset. When I grow up, this is never going to happen to my kids. And I really sort of meant that. And then another experience that I often think about was when I was in the Cub Scouts at Greenbrier School. I was a member of Den 3, Pack 98. Miss Deeroff was our den leader, and she lived on Tarleton Drive. Right after school, we'd run over to Cub Scouts or skip over a creek, and we'd be on Tarleton Drive. And every year there was the annual, I forget what they call it, they make those little wooden cars, Pinewood Derby contest. And back then, and I'm not sure if it still is now, but it was a father-son exercise. And it really bothered me that this was something that I didn't have a father to help me with. And I always knew when that was coming up. Every year I'd say, okay, it's that time of year again when it's a father-son Pinewood Derby contest, and it'll always be sort of a sad time of the year for me. And again, I said, when I get older, I'm going to be there, help my kid, my son, hopefully, with his little car when he's in Cub Scouts. And God has blessed me in so many rich ways, and one of those ways is I do have one son. He's 17. And he was in the Cub Scouts when we lived here. And he was at school at St. Anne's, and they had he started out as a Tiger Scout, and then he went up to a Cub Scout. And I remember he said, he brought the sheet home. He said, I need you to help me put together this Pinewood, this little car. And I was thrilled. And I went to Lowe's and asked him, and the guys were like, all you have to do is buy a little kit. And I was determined to make a huge project out of this. I bought 4 and 5 cans of spray paint and all kinds of stuff. And we sat at home and spread newspaper out, and glue was everywhere, and we put this thing together, magnets at the bottom of it, and all sorts of stuff. And come time for the contest, and we had stickers on it that I had bought. And come time for the contest, my son, he was never quite sure I knew what I was doing. It speaks to his early wisdom. So we get to the contest, and you have to put the car on some track, and it rolls down, and pieces start to fall off. He did not even place. But for me, that was a really proud moment. And I look back fondly on that, and of course the years have slipped away, and he'll be off to college after he graduates next year, his senior year in high school. And so I've thought over the last several months about this whole thing of running for Attorney General, whether I have two daughters who require a lot of time as well, and money, whether I was ready to give all of that up for an opportunity to serve again. And I take service very, very seriously. So when I started to get calls from people that I respect asking me to consider running for Attorney General, I did what any reasonable Attorney General would do. I started praying and asking for God's guidance and wisdom. And then I started to do the kinds of practical due diligence that all of you would expect from an Attorney General. I started with the Constitution, looked at the Constitution of Virginia to see what it had to say about the powers of the office of Attorney General, which frankly isn't much. And then I reviewed the Constitution itself. I think that there are 27 amendments or something like that to the Constitution of Virginia. Then I talked to people who had served in the Attorney General's office to see what their impressions were of the office in terms of budget, its operations, main issues that would need to be addressed in the future. Obviously talked to Bob McDonnell, the current Attorney General. I met with lawyers that I respect, both Democrat and Republican. I visited the office. I talked to every single deputy in the office. I talked to them about their particular areas of responsibility. There's 6 deputies, 308 employees in the office, 168 lawyers. So I did my homework, and I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on what my responsibilities would be. But nothing is more important to me than doing God's will in my life. I've a very strong sense for that. I'm not sure where it came from. But I have felt that at important times in my life, that has been what has guided me. When I decided to run for the House of Delegates in 1996, I'll tell you how it happened. I was reading the newspaper one day. It was probably May of 96, maybe early June. State convention in Salem, Virginia. And I think Jim Miller was running for something at the time, and there were some other, John Warren, I think, was reelected that same year. And so I thought, maybe I'll just go down to Salem and see what's going on, and maybe I'll have a chance to meet some folks. Well, you party activists know, typically when you go to a state convention, you go down as a delegate, and the units will elect delegates as soon as the state convention. Well, nobody elected me to go anywhere. And I didn't know anybody. It was sort of like Bernie. I didn't know anybody in the Albemarle County Republican Committee. I didn't know if there was one in Charlottesville. There may have been one, a very small committee. So I get in the car, drive down to Salem. I rent this $25 a night motel. And my car is like parked right in front of the window. It's real cheap. And so I get up the next morning and drive over to the Coliseum. And I'm not so proud of what I'm about to tell you, but you'll understand why. So go over to the Coliseum, and I'm not a delegate. I don't really know any Republicans in Virginia. And I walk through the doors, and there's this long registration table there.